We're here today in one of Brooklyn's best-kept secrets, Sunset Park, a neighborhood where you can still get a spacious apartment with decent amenities at an affordable price while still having excellent transportation options and never being further than 25 minutes to Manhattan. It's a neighborhood known for its cultural diversity, its affordability, and its convenience. Sunset Park has some of the prettiest blocks in Brooklyn. Some of the streets are lined with brownstones that make you feel as if you're in the heart of Brooklyn Heights, only you're not even paying close to half the price that it costs to live there. There's also a lot of new development that the area has seen over the past few years.
Back in 2016, I started interviewing folks in the neighborhood, getting their perspectives on the gentrification happening in Sunset Park. I was interested in connecting people's stories of migration to the U.S., many of them finding a sense of home in Sunset Park, then being uprooted once again because of high rents and rapid gentrification. Tari Hum is one of those powerful voices. She grew up in Sunset Park and is one of the leading scholars researching and writing about the devastating effects of gentrification on longtime residents, workers, and businesses.
Parameters of the neighborhood were actually quite expansive, and I think that they were defined by the Lutheran Medical Center's application for a federal poverty designation of the community. And in fact, that's really how the neighborhood got its name. You know, the park had always been there since the 1930s, but Sunset Park was designated a federal poverty area in the late 60s to make it eligible for various forms of federal aid. The boundaries, the southern boundary went to like 62nd Street. And then the northern border, you know, went as far north as 19th Street. And then 8th Avenue was a border. And then the western border, of course, went down to the waterfront. Since then, I know that there have been different parts of the neighborhood that have been rebranded and renamed. For example, Greenwood Heights. That's a very typical kind of real estate strategy to create a separate identity for an area, to disassociate it with Sunset Park that still had a very kind of working class Latino, Asian, demographic. Post-1965, of course, the United States eliminated the immigration policy that was based on racist quotas, and opened the doors to immigration based on family reunification skills. And so we saw the influx of immigrants from Asia, Latin America, and the Caribbean.
One of the things I love most about the neighborhood I grew up in is its diversity. The vast majority of residents are people of color, immigrants, and working class European Americans. It was one of those working class communities where immigrant families could actually afford to live and even purchase a home if they were so fortunate. Since the 1950s, Puerto Ricans have been living in Sunset Park. Today, the majority of immigrants, as opposed to Puerto Rican migrants, come from the Dominican Republic, Mexico, and other parts of Central America. According to the recent census, almost 50% of the neighborhood is Latinx and about 40% is Asian. Asian residents have been the fastest growing population here. It increased by 241% between 1990 and 2014. It is now home to one of the largest concentrations of Chinese residents in New York City, surpassing the number living in Manhattan's Chinatown.
Sunset Park had a very important role in New York City's industrial economy and port economy. I mean, we're sitting here in a very extensive kind of industrial infrastructure, and was a major employer of a lot of the kind of the white immigrant ethics in this community.
With the rapid growth of Brooklyn, other bridges became necessary. In 1909, the Williamsburg Bridge was opened to traffic, and not long after that, the Manhattan Bridge. But Brooklyn keeps on growing with a population of almost 3 million people. For Brooklyn is also a great industrial city with miles upon miles of waterfront, sometimes called the stepping-off point of the world. Brooklyn buys what the world has to sell and sells to the world about everything under the sun. Made in Brooklyn. The Made in Brooklyn trademark is known in every corner of the civilized world. Ships from all parts of the world make Brooklyn a port of call. Ships that move Made in Brooklyn products across the 7 seas to lands beyond the horizon. Ships that sail in the night and ships that sail in the day. For Brooklyn never sleeps.
Post-1960s, there was a lot of disinvestment, and it was evident in the decaying industrial infrastructure here in the city and the loss of jobs. For at that time, many Puerto Ricans were working in the industrial manufacturing businesses as well as longshoresmen in the shipping industry.
As we all know, New York City has experienced accelerated gentrification in the last 15 years, with working class, people of color, and immigrant communities being displaced and uprooted from their homes and neighborhoods. Sunset Park in Brooklyn is no exception. Developers have been pushing to change zoning and land use laws so that developers can demolish current low structures to build high-rise luxury housing. Many parts of Sunset Park are still zoned for manufacturing and not for residential or commercial use. I see the Sunset Park neighborhood transforming rapidly. The Latino community is being hit hard by the massive gentrification caused by Industry City. Industry City is a $1 billion venture that is comprised of 16 loft buildings, 6.5 million square feet of floor space, spanning across 7 blocks, covering from 32nd to 41st Street on the waterfront.
A diverse, creative, and growing population of individuals and businesses to define its next great chapter.
We're redeveloping 6 million square feet of space, making investments in the buildings and infrastructure that haven't been made in 50 years.
Hey everyone, I'm Matt Belisai, and this is Bites, Best Day of Your Life edition. I'm here with Thrillist. We're at Industry City in Brooklyn in celebration of the best day of your life. It's a day of fun and food and drinks, and we're about to check it all out. Industry City used to be a bunch of warehouses, but now it's full of some of the best vendors from all over New York City. I'm hungry, I'm thirsty, I'm ready to have some fun. Let's do this.
Welcome!
Yes!
Then there is a development on the Chinatown side where I grew up in, by 8th Avenue. For the last several years, overseas Chinese and domestic investors from Flushing, Queens, along with banks from China, have been the major force behind the gentrification. Much of this development is happening 1 block away from my family's house. On 62nd Street and 8th Avenue, there is a mega development underway called 8th Avenue Center that will include a 17-story office building, a 10-story hotel, condo buildings, and a shopping center. Then there is the highly discussed Chinatown Arch called the Brooklyn Friendship Archway that will be built on 61st Street and 8th Avenue, a quote-unquote gift from Beijing's Chaoyang district. But yet $2 million taxpayer dollars will be needed to subsidize and complete the project. The archway is purely to boost tourism and real estate values, but sadly, it will eventually push out working class residents. In addition to these large developments, dozens of other properties are being bought by real estate developers to turn into luxury condos. These developers are pushing for changes in the zoning law around 8th Avenue so they can build more residential and commercial spaces. The stakes are high. The fight against gentrification is real. The fight is now.